Everyone knows that Picasso was a misogynist. At least, I thought everyone did before doing my research. And I think that because it's such a widespread belief, most people believe these accusations without really looking into them. So in this video, we'll look into these accusations, if not to convince the unconvinced, at least to understand why these accusations are made. We're going to be talking about verbal, emotional, and physical abuse to finally ask ourselves, what do we do with this information? Fernand Olivier, Eva Guel, Olga Koklova, Marie-Thérèse Walter, she was 17, he was 45, Dora Maar, she was 29, he was 55, Françoise Gillot, she was 21, he was 61, Jacqueline Roch, she was 26 and he was 72, and Sylvette David, she was 19, he was 73. Though there are many others, these are Picasso's principal wives, mistresses, and lovers. Jacqueline Roch shot herself with his gun after his death, and Marie-Thérèse Walter, who, must I remind you, was 17 when she became his mistress, hung herself, many linking the tragedy to Picasso. The surrealist photographer Dora Maar didn't kill herself, but did suffer from a nervous breakdown which Paul Éluard, the surrealist poet, blamed Picasso for. Here's a quote from Picasso. After Lacan had left with Dora, Éluard was so upset he accused me of being responsible for her state because I had made her so unhappy, Pablo said. I told him that if I hadn't taken her up, she'd have reached that state long ago. If anyone is to blame, it's you and the rest of the surrealists, I told him, with all those wild ideas promoting anti-rationalism and the derangement of all the senses. Éluard said that any influence they had on her was indirect since it was all theoretical, but that I had made her unhappy in a very concrete way. He was so angry he picked up a chair and smashed it against the floor. What I do know, Pablo told me, is that after she met me, she had a more constructive life than before. Her life became more concentrated. Photography didn't satisfy her. She began to paint more and was making real progress. I built her up. This quote is from Françoise Gillot's 1964 book, Life with Picasso. Gillot, an artist, spent a decade with Picasso. She left him and became known as the only woman who left Picasso. 11 years after she left him, she wrote this book. He tried to stop the book's publication through lawsuits, cancelled Gillot by using his influence with gallerists and basically every notable people in Paris and elsewhere, and even stopped contacting the two kids he had with Gillot. They never spoke again. In the book, she shares her experience as Picasso's partner, detailing the way in which Picasso was abusive, possessive, and manipulative. Now, for this part of the video, I'll be quoting Picasso as recollected by Françoise Gillot in her book. Perhaps the most famous quote from the book is this one. He then went on the defensive by tossing off one of his favorite quips. There's nothing so similar to one poodle dog as another poodle dog, and that goes for women too. He was rather fond also of saying, for me, there are only two kinds of women, goddesses and doormats. And whenever he thought I might be feeling too much like a goddess, he did his best to turn me into a doormat. There was this cycle he had with his wives, lovers, mistresses, and others of idealization, domination, and discard. The goddess to doormat pipeline. And the discard phase could be pretty rough. I recalled how he had told me at the beginning, every time I change wives, I should burn the last one. That way, I'd be rid of them. They wouldn't be around now to complicate my existence. Maybe that would bring back my youth too. You kill the woman and you wipe out the past she represents. Gillot also tells the story of her first kiss with Picasso, where he kissed her and was surprised she didn't resist. You don't mind? He asked. I said no, should I? He seemed shocked. That's disgusting, he said. At least you could have pushed me away. That's disgusting. How do you expect me to seduce anyone under conditions like that? If you're not going to resist, well, then it's out of the question. I'll have to think it over. Picasso wanted her to resist. He wanted to conquer and dominate. Later in their relationship, Picasso confronted his ex, Dora Maar, in front of Gillot. After the confrontation, Gillot and Picasso were on a bridge, and she told him she didn't like the way he treated Dora. Picasso answered, "I did that for you, just to make you realize there's nobody else as important as you in my life. And this is the thanks I get, your aloofness and a bawling out. You're not able to feel intensely about anything. You have no grasp of what life is really like. I ought to throw you into the Seine. That's what you deserve." For those who don't know, the Seine is the river in Paris. Gillot then writes, "He grabbed me and pushed me into one of the semicircular setbacks on the bridge. He held me against the parapet and twisted me around so that I was looking down into the water. 'How would you like it?' he said. I told him to go ahead if he wanted to. It was spring now and I was a good swimmer. Finally, he let go of me and I ran down in the subway, leaving him behind me on the bridge." It wasn't the only time he threatened or used physical force against Gillot. I told him I had often thought he was the devil, and now I knew it. His eyes narrowed. "And you're an angel," he said scornfully, "but an angel from the hot place. Since I'm the devil, that makes you one of my subjects. I think I'll brand you." He took the cigarette he was smoking and touched it to my right cheek and held it there. He must have expected me to pull away, but I was determined not to give him the satisfaction. After what seemed a long time, he took it away. "No," he said, "that's not a very good idea. After all, I may still want to look at you." She also shares stories of how he would take his belt off to threaten her, throw objects at her, like that one time he was furious at his child and he grabbed his shoes from the floor and threw them at us, then the books from his night table and anything else he could lay his hands on. One of the books bounced off my head. I protested that I had nothing to do with this. Picasso's view of Gillot's role was pretty clear. "Your job is to remain by my side, to devote yourself to me and to the children," he said. "Whether it makes you happy or unhappy is no concern of mine." When she wanted to keep living with her sick grandmother to take care of her, Picasso was furious, and right after threatening her with a belt, he said, "You're worried all the time about your grandmother. I'm almost as old as she is. You should be worrying about me. I need you, and I'm tired of getting along without you." And then he added a little more fiercely, "And since I can't get along without you, you have to come live with me." When she said she was leaving him, that also, as you may imagine, angered Picasso. He threw the wristwatch she gave him at her. He destroyed her art, her books, notes, and letters she had received. You imagine people will be interested in you. They won't ever, really, just for yourself. Even if you think people like you, it will only be a kind of curiosity they will have about a person whose life has touched mine so intimately. Or, a bit more threateningly, I'd rather see a woman die any day than see her happy with someone else. These are the first-hand accounts of abuse lived by Françoise Gillot, and there are more that I didn't cover. There are other accounts of physical abuse such as cited by Yale professor Craig Wright. Olga was knocked down and dragged by her hair around the floor of the apartment on Rue La Boétie. Dora was knocked unconscious in the studio in Rue des Grands Augustins. Françoise was nearly bitten by 3 Mediterranean scorpions, while Picasso laughed delightedly. Deadly Scorpio was his zodiacal sign. Having terrorized his women in life, now energized, Picasso set about transferring his psychic state into visual form, his art. He first raped the women, and then he worked. Whether it was me or someone else, it was always like that, recounted Marie-Thérèse Walter. Finally, Picasso's own granddaughter would write in her book Picasso, My Grandfather, he submitted his partners to his animal sexuality, tamed them, bewitched them, ingested them, and crushed them onto his canvas. After he had spent many nights extracting their essence, once they were bled dry, he would dispose of them. All right, I think we had enough. We know Picasso was a misogynist, so now what do we do? First, I want to address this 2015 Guardian article written by Jonathan Jones titled, Was Picasso a Misogynist? In this 10-paragraph text, Jonathan Jones uses the example of Picasso's friendship with Lee Miller and Gertrude Stein, a gay woman. It has always struck me as puzzling, if Picasso was such a misogynist, how he could have got on so well with this formidable intellectual and pioneer of gay culture. The man is puzzled. Picasso's art suffers because we expect him to be much easier than he is. The greatest artist of the 20th century is, in reality, a painter of the mysteries of perception and being. His vision, properly understood, is the most liberating ever created in art. Oppressor? Look again. Look again, feminists. To share Jonathan Jones' opinion, you either need to be ignorant about Picasso or be ignorant about misogyny. I think he's ignorant about misogyny. He either dismisses Gillot's testimony, which is very possible, or he believes that being a misogynist means that you hate all women and that if a man has women friends, he can't possibly be a misogynist, the same way a white person can't possibly be racist if they have black friends. I'm not going to explain what misogyny is. There are plenty of resources by women who are much more impacted by it than I am. But what I can tell Jonathan Jones is, a man can be a misogynist, be abusive, manipulative, and even violent against women, and still have women as friends. If women can be misogynists, men who have women as friends can be too. Also, I think it's dangerous to say that to be a misogynist, you need to hate all women. A lot of abusers are unaware of the way they manipulate and abuse their partners. Some abusers genuinely feel love. Abuse isn't about feelings, but about behavior, and the sooner you don't think you're immune to that type of behavior, the sooner you can identify it and stop it if it's there. I talk about this in the video on fascism that I'm still working on. People see the words such as racist, sexist, homophobic, or fascist as insults, or as something that differentiates good guys versus bad guys in a very polarizing way. And since most, if not all people, see themselves as good guys, then being called racist or sexist is an insult, rather than a criticism. And polemicists, which I'll include Jones as, at least for this article, will use these polarizing binaries. He's either an oppressor or he's not. He's either a good guy or a bad guy. Because his vision is liberating, then he must be a good guy, and if he's a good guy, he can't be an oppressor. In the Paris Review, Diana Widmeyer Picasso, the granddaughter of Picasso and of Marie-Thérèse Walter, the 17-year-old who later killed herself, is said to be well aware of the usual misanthropic, misogynistic characterizations of Picasso. He's a man of metamorphoses, she tells me carefully in Paris, a few days before the vernissage of her exhibition. A complex person to grasp. Everyone is complex, Diana. I get really irritated by these answers to Picasso's misogyny. It's as if you call someone out for their racism or sexism, it means that you're ignoring every other facets of their lives. As if by branding Picasso as a misogynist, the nuances and complexity of his personality and life disappear. Hence the he's not an oppressor or it's more complicated than it seems. It's not complicated. He oppressed women. He is a misogynist. Does that mean it's the only thing he did in his life? Does it mean that he hasn't done any good? Of course not. To me, it's Picasso's friend and biographer Sir John Richardson who has given the best reaction to these accusations. He absolutely adored women, but he was I'm afraid, very misogynistic. I don't think you can defend his view. I mean, I don't. In a podcast episode on Picasso's misogynistic past, Afua Hirsch and Peter Frankopan are right in pointing out that the solutions to this situation are presented in a binary, to ignore or to cancel. They say they come out of this deep dive feeling like they understand Picasso more and that they feel better equipped to better appreciate his art, which I understand, but feel like it can also become problematic. I'm not saying that this is what they're advocating for, but if this information turns Picasso's artworks into trauma porn, into exotic, thrilling works of a man who painted his mistreated partners, I don't think we're doing a good job at addressing the situation. The way I feel, my personal response to this situation is to use this information as a way to defend an opinion I've believed in ever since I started being interested in the philosophy of anarchism. We can't venerate people. Not only because venerating them gives them power and they can use that power to abuse, as Picasso did, but also because nobody is worthy of veneration. We can appreciate someone's work, someone's qualities, but to elevate their whole person is dangerous. And I feel like history, art history included, has this tendency to put individuals on a pedestal, especially men. Chomsky himself said to not put him on a pedestal, and he was right. And for those who don't know, he was on Epstein's list. They were close friends. I don't know how our relationship with Picasso's work will unfold in the upcoming years. I don't think his work should be swept under the rug, but I obviously don't think we should ignore or dismiss his misogyny. It should be mentioned whenever it's necessary. I think that from there, we should be able to recognize that misogyny has been omnipresent in art history and in our art historical figures. Now, it's up to us to use that information to transform our relation to the past, our relation to artists, and our relation to art. And that's it. That concludes someone said in the comment, my red period. I'm not sure about that, but because it's the red background period, which have heavily featured Picasso. This is like my third video on Picasso in 4 videos. It's over. It's over, folks. And we're ending on his misogyny. I could have talked about his appropriation of African art. I could have talked about the fact that he adopted a little girl to sketch her nude and then brought her back to the orphanage, I think in the same year. What else could I... There was like other quotes, of course, in Gillot's book that I could have used. There was one where he said, you should wear like something where only your eyes can be seen, because I want to be the only one who sees you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing, but I bet you already have. If you really, really enjoyed the video, you can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/thecanvas. I have on my left to your right, all the patrons who are scrolling and the top tier patrons to my right, of which there is Rowan Brandel, X-Towns, Bone Meal, and Chrissy Chris, who are the top tier patrons, who, again, I always say, thank you so much to all the patrons. It's like $1 per month. It's even less than $1 per month if you subscribe yearly, and it helps out a lot, like a lot. That being said, I now have footage of Begonia. Is that legal? I don't know. But I can make a video on Begonia now, which probably will be in the next week, because I don't want to take too long before releasing it, before publishing it. If you haven't watched Begonia, you have a week to watch it. It's really good. I really liked it. And the video is going to be about its ending, which is very spoiler heavy, I guess. So go watch it so you can watch the video. You have 1 week. It's the only assignment for this video. Oh, there's something I want to say. I want to say hello to Gil. Because Gil has stopped me in the street and said, "Hey, I like your videos," something like that. So hello, Gil. And people in the comments, say hello to Gil as well. if you're that far into the video. I don't know. Sometimes people recognize me in the street and like I don't know what to say. And I said, "Hey, what's your name?" Gil. And now I'm gonna say it to the camera. Hello, Gil. Maybe something I'll start doing. All right. Now, is there anything else? Anything else I need to say, to mention? No, I guess there isn't. I need to go record now a video for the CBC. I've published 2 of them if you want to go check them out. And the third one I'll do with the CBC, I'm very excited about it. It's going to be very political, I guess. Political? Well, it's a political artwork. So, of course, I love that. And I'm happy I can use the CBC platform to share some artworks that I love and that join my sensibilities. All right. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video next week, probably. All right. Goodbye.